My name is Max Working. I'm the Senior Portfolio Manager at Skurnik for Spain, Portugal, and Greece. Many years, Raúl, just after harvest is done, graces us here in New York with his presence, and he's doing that again this year. Pues gracias por estar aquí.
Thank you.
Today, seminar masterclass, we're going to dive deep into Raúl's home appellation of Bierzo. This is an appellation that has a lot of renown by now in Spain, but I find, when I'm out there tasting the wines frequently, that there's still a lot more to be explored in terms of getting into the nitty-gritty of the different terroirs of the different areas within Bierzo. And we naturally thought, what better winemaker to take us through those different terroirs than Raúl. So just to briefly situate us before we begin, we have 3 flights. We're going to start off with the flight of wines of the village and kind of mid-level single parcel wines from Raúl's home village of Valtuille and Cacabelos, but mostly Valtuille. Lower elevation, sandy clay soils, gently rolling hills. In the second flight, we'll start off with a couple of Raúl's top single parcel wines from those same terroirs, and then we move into just some radically different areas of the appellation. So the next 2 wines in the second flight are going to be from the wild, slatey hills of eastern Bierzo, the Ponferrada zone. And then last but not least, in the third flight, we're going to go way over to the western mountains of Bierzo, to the village of Corullón, which is a village that up until now has been mostly associated with one of Raúl's great colleagues in the appellation, Ricardo Palacios. But back in 2019, Raúl actually had the chance to buy some vineyards from Ricardo in the area of Corullón. These include the highest altitude vineyards in the entire appellation of Bierzo, topping out at 1,013 meters above sea level. Indeed. And we're going to explore those vineyards in the third flight with some incredible wines that are very, very rarely open. So we're very excited to share them with you today. Pues, thanks again for coming.
Okay, thank you for today. It's a pleasure every time. Return to here. Today we're going to test in the different wines in Bierzo area in the projects. Here is more easy to understand this concept. In Spain, when you speak about the plots, the parcels, it's very complicated because the culture of the wine is more short. New York or American have a very high influence of the different countries, different areas, and it's very easy to the people here understand the Meursault, Pouligny, and it's for this that's when you're explaining these wines, the people understand. It's very simple because the history of Bierzo, the actual history of the vineyards of Bierzo, is the century 9, century 10. There are a very important route for the pilgrims to the north of France, Burgundy, in the north of Burgundy, the area from Cluny, and these pilgrims along of the route established the different monasteries, and around of the monasteries established the vineyards around the century 9, century 11, and at the end is the same classification that Burgundy. Wines from village, wine from plots. The unique difference is at the moment in Bierzo we are in the process of the classification of the plots, the crus, Grand Cru, Premier, First Cru. Yeah, oh sorry. Okay, we are going to test in the wines from Valtuille. Valtuille is in this part of Bierzo. It's very important, the climatology is very singular. There are a very high influence of the Atlantic Ocean. The 90% of the rain come to Bierzo from the Atlantic Ocean. And here in the valley, there are the different altitudes with the mountains. This is the west part, is the more lower, and this is the east part, is the more higher. Las nubes, the clouds with the rain come and crash with the mountains and have the rain. If you see this point and this point here in this area, it's around a normal vintage 900 milliliters, and this point is 5-6 kilometers more. The rain is 300. This is the Atlantic climatology. This is a continental climatology.
Just to put it into context, if you look at like the analytical readings of the pluviometría, the rainfall, in wet years, Bierzo has a similar rainfall to like the mid-Atlantic of the United States, which is pretty amazing in the context of Spain for a lot of people to hear.
Along of the history, the grapes have a different adaptation to the areas, and it's for this that in this area, the area from the high part, is more typical to see the Malvasia, Prieto Picudo. And in Bierzo area, is more Burgundy grapes, Mencía, Trousseau, Dona Blanca, Palomino, Godello, and actually, after the 1920, Alicante Bouchet. But that Alicante Bouchet have not a good adaptation because the circle or the time for the maturation is very longer. And Bierzo have the limits of the climatology. At the end of September, change the climatology and the temperature is very lower. And normally there are a big quantity of water. Okay, in the fifth flight, we're going to test in the wines from Valtuille. Valtuille is this village. Okay, around of the village there are the vineyards. The border for the south is this point. It's 1 kilometer to the village, and the limit for the north is the other part of the road. Yeah, 1.3 kilometers, 800 meters. And the border for the east and west, the border for the is this, around 1.3 kilometers, and the border from here is this line, around 600 meters.
¿Cuántos inhabitantes?
53 now.
53 inhabitants.
Yeah, persons.
Cuando tú naciste, ¿cuántos?
100, I don't know. I don't know.
So
Around 120.
The pueblo has halved in size since 1972 when he was born.
Okay, the total area for the vineyards is around 400 hectares. The total parcels it's around 4,000 hectares, around. No, podemos, bueno, okay. This is the other photograph of the village. The village have not plano, flat. It's hills. This is the high part of the hill. This is the high part of the hill. In the middle, there are the valley. And here, there are the valley, and it's similar to the wave. And this is the more high part, 720 meters. And the village, this is the more lower part, is 500 meters. The normal, it's around 500, 600 meters. You can see the different colors. This is the different proprietaries. In this part, for example, estoy mirando, no me ubico. This is the winery. But for example, no, estoy mirando, joder, es que la foto está girada. No,
miras al este.
Sí, no, pero quería mirar aquí. For example, in this area, bueno, other area. In this part, it's probably around 1 hectare, and there are 10, 15 different proprietaries. Okay, this is the north, and this is the east. This is the east. And the big part of the vineyards what are planted between 1883, 1936. 1883 is the moment that the phylloxera arrived to Bierzo, and in 1936 is the Spanish War. There are not vineyards planted after the 1936. Only around 1970, 1972, there are other small moments that the people replanted vineyard. Actually, there are a very important problem with the people for work the vineyards, and I think that in the future will be changed, and we need the machines for the harvest, and no, it's possible to work in these conditions. For me, these old vineyards have a very big magic, and it's probably when change the vineyard will be very different. But at the moment, this is the situation. We are looking the possibility of harvest the old vineyards when that is possible for the inclination. But the big part of the vineyards was planted in this form because they work with the animals, and the animals no is possible to work for the high part. It's possible to work in the parallel to the soil lines. This is my house. Okay, the first wine that we're testing is a village. Really, there are not 100% Valtuille grapes because it's very difficult to have a Godello. Godello is an old plant in Bierzo, in other areas of Spain, but the people along of the history don't like this grape and no use this grape. The Godello, all Godellos, it's around 1-2% of the plants in the vineyard. The people don't like this plant because it's very acid. It's very small production, it's very small raisins, and it's very sensibility to the mildew, botrytis, and oidium. And only in the 19 years, when the people changed the concept of the profile of wines for drink, there are a new concept in the white wines in Spain. The people is looking to wines that is possible to age in the time with the oaky sensation. It's in this moment when the people think the best grape for these conditions is Godello. But if you go to Bierzo 30 years before, the people have not wines from Godello. Only 1% for the traditional wines for the house. But the more important grape along of the history in Bierzo and in the big part of Spain was the Malvasia. Actually, the Malvasia, the level of acidity is very lower, and it's very difficult to work when you put in the barrel or put in the... but actually, the people in Bierzo is crazy and change the old vineyard from Mencía to young vineyard from Godello because the price of the Godello is very higher. If you see 15 years before, the total production in Bierzo of Godello, it's around 200 kilograms of Godello. If you see this vintage, it's probably the production in Bierzo of Godello will be more than 3 million of kilograms.
To go from 200 to 3 million kilograms of a variety in a small appellation in the span of a decade is, needless to say, it's one of the more profound changes in the composition of the Spanish appellation that I'm aware of, I think.
And the problem is the Godello is splining very big in the Galician appellations, Valdeorras, Ribeira Sacra, Ribeiro, and actually the people is planted in Rueda. Rueda is planted Godello because the price of the Verdejo, it's around 0.4 euros, and the price of the Godello is 2 euros or 1.5. And the people exchanged and planted Godello in Rueda, in Catalonia, in Rioja, and in every site. It's a crazy, it's a mod. It's very similar to Chardonnay. It's have a more high capacity of adaptation to the Spanish conditions. But when you have a vineyard and there are planted a blend of Godello and Chardonnay, if you have not familiarity with the grapes, it's very difficult to have a difference. And when you have an analysis of the use, it's very similar. The Godello have a more low pH, but 0.2. The acidity is very similar. The time of harvest is very similar. Ampelographic is very similar. The raisins is similar. It's everything. Okay, for this wine, we use around 10, 12 hectares. When I make this wine, the first vintage, 10% was my vineyard, and 9% I buy the grapes. But actually, along of this year, we buy the plots, and actually 85% is my vineyards, and 15% is I buy the grapes. Every wine that's going to testing today, fermented in oak. The more simple, the more complicated. Every wines stay in barrel 1 year. Only when have the new harvest, take off and put the new. All oak. There are a blend between big tanks. Big tank is, the more big is 5,000 liters, and the more sloped is a barrel of 200 liters. For this one, we use a blend. The big part is 500 liters, and there are small barrels, 200 liters, 500 liters. The age of these barrels, it's around, the more young is 3-4 years old, and the more old is 10-15 years old. Okay, for this wine, we use the grapes for 3 different villages. Valtuille, the 20% around. Cacabelos, around 70%, and 10% is the other village in front of Valtuille. The name is Viariz. 100% of the grapes is young vineyards. The more young have 11, 12 years old, and the more old for this wine is 45 years old. In Bierzo, this is very young. It's 100% is Godello. There are the big part of the soil for this wine is clay with a good continuing iron. It's red clays. The pH here in the soil is acid. Different orientation. The idea of the wine is have a low level of alcohol and good acidity. In general, the acidity is good acidity, but the level of alcohol is very oscillative. In 2023, the level of alcohol was more higher than the normal, around 30.5. The normal is 12.5. The fermentation is free, it's a natural fermentation without temperature control, natural yeast, never racking, no batonnage. And in this vintage was a very rare conditions because the 75% of the barrels and tanks have a very difficult fermentation. The normal time for the fermentation is 15-20 days, but in this vintage we need 8 months for the fermentation. Along of this time, the wine have not sulfites. We have a long time without sulfites. In these conditions, make the malolactic fermentation. It's the first wine that I make with the malolactic fermentation. I have a problem in my meat because I think will be a sweet vintage, but at the end it's the same conditions, and you can feel other concept that we never think that will be in the wine. That is the rain. 2023 was a very rain vintage, and at the end the wine is very humidity sensation. It's very easy to drink. After this time, after this wine, I think in the future will be best malolactic fermentation or without malolactic fermentation. But I think they are not important. It's more important the sensation of the condition of the vintage. The humidity, the dry vintage, the warm, the cool. And after 1 year, take off the wine, blend the different tanks. And the first choose is an analysis of proteins. If the wines have proteins, we use bentonita, it's una tierra, it's a bentonite. That the analysis have not proteins, only filter the wine and go into the bottle. Have not a stabilization process.
Entonces pasamos un poco al segundo wine.
Muy bien. Okay, the second, the first wine is a village, a concept. No, it's village, really it's Bierzo wine, because village is, if the grapes is 100% Valtuille, and this wine have other village. And the second wine is more single plot. In the origin, the wine was a single plot, 2014, 2018. In this time, the parcel for this wine is in Valtuille, 0.9 hectare with a sandy soil. But in 17, 19, we can feel that this wine is very sweet. It's very sweet and un poquito aburrido, ¿cómo es?
Boring.
A little boring.
No hay que decir esto, frente a los clientes.
No, and in this time, we decided to put other plot for make a blend. And I put 0.8 hectare in Cacabelos in front of the river. And this blend, at the end, make a very good balance in the wine. The name of the wine is La del Vivo, because the first wine, the first plot in this wine is Paulosa, and the proprietary of this vineyard, the name was La del El Vivo, El Vivo.
Where, as it happens, the sort of up-close view we have, Paulosa, which is one of the plots for this wine, is kind of up in this.
The first vineyard was this.
That, right up there. And then we'll also taste the red from there just a...
In the vineyard, there are not one grape, it's a blend. Every vineyard have red and white. If you want to make a white wine, you need go and take the white grapes. And if after you need return and picking the reds. And in the whites, it's a blend. The big part of the white is Dona Blanca, and the more small part is Godello. And there are a part of Palomino. And it's the same with the reds. The big part is Mencía, very big part, but always there are a little part of Truso, the name in Bierzo is Pan y Carne, and there are a little part of Alicante Bouchet. And depending the proprietaries in the history, the blend is different. There are any proprietaries that graft the Alicante Bouchet, more big quantity, but the normal in red grapes is 92-93% is Mencía, 5% is Alicante Bouchet, and 3% is Truso. It's the normal. But there are 4,000 plots and 4,000 different blends. There are no two plots similar in the grapes. Okay, and the second wine is different. The process is similar. Here is a blend of sandy in Valtuille, sandy soil in this area, and clay in Cacabelos. And here we produced around 6 foudres of 1,000 liters each. And there are not barrel, there are no peak. It's 1,000 liters. For me, it's new. It's 2 years old. In 2023, I buy these foudres in 20 and 21. And the idea is use these foudres for, I don't know, 15, 20 years more, no change. In 2021, I established the style of this wine, and I decided to change the old form of aged in 500 liters, 200 liters, and buy the foodrest 1,000, and for the future, every vintage will be 1,000 liters. Okay. Any question of the whites? And in this case, the vineyard is young. It's, the vineyard in Cacabelos is 45 years, and the vineyard in Valtuille is 25 around. And in this case, 70% of the wine make the malolactic in this vintage, and 25% no make the malolactic. Finish the alcoholic fermentation in the natural time, put sulfites, and there are two different. And what's a problematic decision, have the blend, because it's a very high risk. But at the end, the blend is very good, and I decided to have a more fine filtration and put a wine with a part of malolactic fermentation finish. Okay, the first wine is the more important wine in the project. It's Ultrella St. Jacques. It's a blend of the different old vineyards in Valtuille, and Villadecanes, and Parandones, and Cacabelos. 80%, 85% is Valtuille, and 15-20% is other village. We use particular vineyards, and I buy other part of the grapes. In general, my vineyard for this wine is the more younger, and the grapes that I buy in general have 100, 120 years old. It's a blend of the different soils. The big part is clay, the small part is sand, and it's a blend of the grapes, the normal grapes. It's red grapes and white grapes. The big part is Mencía, little part of Trousseau, Alicante Bouchet, and a small part, around 3-4%, is a blend of Palomino, Dona Blanca, and Godello. It's a different vintage. It's 22. 22 is a dry vintage. The rain was very lower, around 500 milliliters. And the elaboration is very simple. It's a similar concept of the whites. It's a natural fermentation without, it's the natural yeast. There are not temperature control in general. And the big part of the grapes for this wine is all cluster fermentation. Fermented in oak tanks, have a long maturation, in general 3 months. In this time, we are wait the finish of the alcoholic fermentation. Normally it's 3 weeks, and after continue waiting to finish of malolactic fermentation. In Mencía wine is very easy to make a malolactic fermentation, because in the region the level of malic acid is very lower. If you see a Cabernet or Tempranillo, it's probably you have 4 or 3 or 5 grams of malic. When you have a Mencía, the normal is you have a 1.2 grams. And it's for this that is very, very easy to make a malolactic fermentation in the reds. After the malolactic fermentation, put sulfites for finish the contamination of the bacteriums malolactic, and continue the work in the tanks with movement. We are looking the polymerization of the tannins, and after 2-3 months is the moment that the tannins is more sweet, and it's in this moment when press the grapes, the wine return to the original tank of fermentation. I wait around November to January, February in these tanks. We are looking the natural decantation. In general, in February, go to barrel. It's very important, this process, because along of this time, you have the possibility of take off the lees, and the Mencía grape is very reductive. And anytime when you put the wines in the barrel early, you have a level of lees of the wines is very big, and this list produced a reduction sensation. It's for this that in the reds, is very for me, it's very important. Take off the big part of the list. And the wine is going to the old barrels. The more young barrels is 9 years old, and the more young is 15, 16 years old. And in these barrels continue for 10, 11 months more, and never racking, never moving, because I take off the list, and I have not, it's probably that don't have a reduction in the barrel. And it's for this that I prefer no racking the barrel.
So just to underline his point about the pressing, because it's a rather idiosyncratic, I would say, and very distinctive personal winemaking element for Raúl, is that even in this, his nominal entry-level red wine, those grapes are sitting on 2/3 whole clusters for 2 or even 3 months before he presses them. So it's more complicated, the wine. Really, there are a play. You play with the different climatology conditions for the wine. For this wine, in general, I have 17 different areas. For example, this area is probably that there are a tank in this area. The name is, for example, Villegas. Here is sand, and this area produces very warm sensation, very sweet. I make this wine, I put this wine in barrel, and at the end I have, after 1 year, this plot in a tank. But I have 17 different areas. For example, this area is El Val, and this area is very cool. It's very cool, and the soil here is clay and rockstone, and this area produces more rustic wines, more acid wine, and at the end I have 17 different. I use 11, 12 different areas for this wine. There are 5 or 6 areas always there are in the wine, but there are 3 or 4 different areas it's possible to change depending the condition of the vintage. It's for this that St. Jacques every year is different. There are 70% is the same plots, but 30% are wrong depending the vintage. If I have a warm vintage, I use west and north parts. If the vintage is, for example, this vintage is cool, it's probably that I use for St. Jacques this pattern and not this, depending the vintage. The vineyard is similar ages, similar blend of the grapes, but depending the expression of the wines. It's a wine that you have in the mint, and at the end you have the blend. Okay, for this vintage, 13 alcohol, the normal, and the acidity in the Mencía grape in general is more lower than other grapes, but at the end, the expression of the Mencía wines is very fresh, but the level of acidity only is a number, no represented the sensation. It's for this that when the people speak with you and say, oh, the Mencía is very acid, and you say the level of acid is lower, it's very lower, it's the sensation. Okay, and the fourth wine is a single plot, it's a, no la tenemos, ¿no? La parcela. Esta es una imagen fija.
No, pero no hay una de Paulosa. Creo que tienes una.
De Paulosa mismo no.
Okay, this wine is this area. The unique problem is this plot is this. This is a plot. Is the continuation. This is the Villegas area, and this is Paulosa area. Paulosa area, the orientation is to the east. It's a warm area. The soils in this area chain that Villegas. Here you can see the more clay soils have a very high continuing roundstone. And the plantation in this area is the more young in the village. It's 1920, 1930. It's for this that you can see Alicante Bouchet. For example, in Villegas, there are not Alicante Bouchet. Alicante Bouchet arrived in 1920. And in general, the level of alcohol for Paulosa is more higher. The maturation needs more time. Here is around 14.5 alcohol. Fermented 100% of, the production of this wine is 2.3 hectares. The total production is around 9,000 bottles every year. Fermented 100% with stamps, all cluster. And the time in skin contact is more small, más corto, more short, because the level of alcohol is more higher than the normal wines in the project. And when you have more level of alcohol, the extraction of the bitter tannins in the stands is more higher. And it's for this that we prefer to have a more short time in skin contact. 45 days is the normal. And after this time, press the wines and going to the barrels, 500 liters. In general, it's 12, 13 barrels of 500 liters. I buy these barrels in 2014, and I continue use these barrels, and stay 9 months, 10 months in barrel, and after this time, go out. It's the same process, never racking. Every barrel that we use is French oak. It's French oak.
Of course, it goes without mentioning if anyone wants to jump in to pose a question to Raúl, please do so.
This is the more alcoholic wine in the process. It's the more warm area. There are other warm areas, for example, Villegas is more warm, but in this area we prefer to have an early harvest. I not believe in the phenolic maturation. I no believe. It's for this that this part is very fine, and there are not phenolic maturation. And in this wine, it's a unique wine that I see the other choose that knows it in the other part of the wines. For example, the maturation of the pepites, or the extraction of anthocyanins, or in polyphenolic in these indications, is the unique. When I present the 4 wines of this project, this wine is the wine that the people like more. But in the winery, to the people, never like this wine. But when you have a first black tasting, the people prefer more sweet sensation in the wines, and this wine is more sweet. It's more very easy to test. And in this picture, it's very important to the concept of the village. For example, in this picture, you can see this white house. This is the Álvaro Palacios winery. And in this picture, you can see these plots here, and here, and here. This is the plots of Corullón of Álvaro Palacios. This is La Faraona, and this is Las Lamas. Around in the línea recta, line straight line is 3 kilometers, no more. The difference is the river. In the middle of this hill and this hill, there are a river. The altitude is the same with this part, around 700 meters, 600 meters. And after this part, there are other areas and change the soils. This part is argile and sand, and this part is schist. es schist.
Pero ya vuelvo a la mapa ya que vamos
Sí.
a empezar aquí Claudina y Rapolao.
Sí, podemos ir al mapa de parcelas del pueblo.
No tengo, la de las parcelas no tengo, pero mira, en la mapa
Esto, ok.
sí.
Un poquito, vale.
Porque Cova se ve por aquí, ¿no? Y
Vale, pero-
luego Rapolao vamos más
Pero
abajo.
podemos hacerlo un poco más pequeño porque no vemos las parcelas.
Ya.
Okay, now we're going to testing two single plots. The Paulosa, the other flyer, is this plot.
Está aquí.
Is this.
Sí.
Is this plot, and the other photograph you can see this part. But really, the plot is this plot, 2.3 hectares. This is the border between Paulosa and Gundiñas. And now we're going to testing Claudina. Claudina is in this area. It's in Villegas, but the orientation is to the north. Is this plot. And the second wine for testing is El Rapolao. El Rapolao is in the other part of the village.
La del 3 es la de esta aquí.
The Rapolao area is this area. And this wine, this plot, is this small plot, 0.3 hectares around. Es Ultrella, no? Sí, okay. We have other 4 small plots in Rapolao. There are the big plot is this, 1.2 hectares, and we produce, no, is this. This. We produce it, La Vizcaína El Rapolao. The other plot, the young vineyard, the old vineyard is Ultrella Rapolao, and there are two plots, 2 different plots in the Rapolao. Okay, yo tengo ya los vinos.
Disculpa. No, yo puse los blancos.
El blanco.
Sí, es Claudina.
Okay, La Claudina is a very small plot. No is my plot. No is possible to buy this plot. It's 0.3 hectares. And depending the producer of the viticulture, I have more wine or less wine. The normal production for the plot of La Claudina is 2,000 liters. But when the producer sleeps, I have 1,000 liters. And it's for this that La Claudina is different depending the vintage. When I have 2,000 liters, I use a foudre that I buy for La Claudina. It's 2,000 liters, and you put here. This foudre I buy in 2017 and continue using this foudre. But when I don't have 2,000 liters and I have 1,000, I use barrels. And it's for this that any vintage, in the first time when the wines is bottled, you can think, oh, it's oaky. In general, when you have a low production, the wine is more oaky. And when you have a big producer, the wine is more fruity.
Pero es que este tío nunca te va a vender la parcela.
No, nunca.
So this guy,
Well, I don't know.
will not sell him the vineyard for anything.
It's probably that the next generation would have not sons. It's very old person. It's 85, 90 years old.
The guy's name is Claudino, hence Ultrella La Claudina.
Okay, and this is a very particular vineyard because have 35, 36 years. Here is very warm area, and the soil is sand. In general, it's sweet sensation. When you're testing the 2 first wines, it's more acid, and this wine is more glycerin expression. And it's for this that I continue making this wine. Have this different. In other conditions, I know make this wine, but have a very, for me, very big personality, and there are not more plots in this area with Godello, and it's the unique opportunity. In the wines, always prefer have the proprietary of the important vineyards because you can have the more precision in the moment of the make the wines. But in this case, I depended the proprietary. Any times is high level of botrytis, other time is perfect, other time the production is very high, other it's very different. But at the end, when you test in Claudina along of the vintage, you can understand that the wine has the personality. And for me, the more important in this wine is this character, very different to the other white wines that I make. And it's very simple, fermentation, elaboration, never racking, no batonnage, 100% Godello. In the second wine, I forget, in La del Vivo, there are a 5% of Donna Blanca in the blend. No is 100% Foudre, have a 5% of Donna Blanca, and this Donna Blanca aged, fermented and aged in amphora.
He's referring to the second wine from flight
Yeah.
one, the La del
Que
Vivo
me
there.
olvidé.
No, está bien.
The next wine is El Rapolao. It's this small plot here, 0.3 hectares. It's a very historic plot planted in 1886, 1887. It's a historic vineyard of my family. And when I decided to make the Rapolao wines in 2011, I take this plot. Really, no, it's my plot, it's my family plot. But I use this plot for every time. And here there are not white grapes, only there are Mencía and Trousseau. It's a very cool parcel. The orientation is to the west. In general, the level of maturation for this wine is lower, around 12, 12.5, 30, depending. For this wine, I make a long maturation, around 3-4 months in skin contact. After this time, press the grapes, and in January, in general, I put this wine in Foudre. The total production for this wine, depending the vintage, but the more normal is 1,000 liters. One Foudre of 1,000 liters. And in this vintage, it's the same that La Viña del Vivo. I decided take off the barrels and change for the Foudre. And in this vintage, it's a Foudre, it's new Foudre. It's a new experience, change the Foudre for barrel, and have difficult conditions that I now believe in the first time. For example, la disposición, de oxígeno. La disponibilidad. ¿Cómo es la palabra disponibilidad?
Disponibilidad, the availability of oxygen.
The oxygen is very different. Work with 4 barrels and 1 Foudre. The oxygen is more or less in the Foudre, more lower. At the end, have a problems with the close sensation. In general, the area, the different wines of Rapolao, my wines and the other producer wines, is very rustic and have in the when it's young wines, is very closer. With the time, it's very aromatic and very complicated, complex. But always have a very good acidity. This change, I think, will be best for the future.
Before we move on to another part of the appellation, I just want to underline something really important about this paraje, or lieu-dit, if you will, that we're tasting of Rapolao. This is the whole lieu-dit.
No, aquí, esto no.
Well, yeah, that's
Esto es la rata.
Yeah. In all, we're talking about 9 hectares. And all the different little sub-parcels you see, every single one of those has a different owner. And the really unique thing about this Ludi, however, is that you've got, by now, close to around dozen different producers who are producing, bottling, and marketing this vineyard name under their own name. And that is a nearly unique to this day phenomenon in Spain. And Raúl has been instrumental in being the ringleader of this group of producers. So it's like the wine that you're tasting right now, as he was saying, comes from this parcel right here, but you can also taste wines from this vineyard, from César Marquez, his nephew, from Antoine Briot from Rhône in France, who makes one, from his family's ancestral winery,
Magaña.
Diego Magaña. The list goes on, and it's really all thanks to Raúl kind of opening the doors to allow people to use what in Spain, a problem that they have is vineyard names have to be registered brand names. So you can't have multiple producers marketing the same vineyard unless the original person who owns the brand rights lets them do that, which is not always the case. So the bottom line is, basically what you're looking at is kind of like the Spanish version of like Clos de Vougeot, if you're looking at like the Clos de Vougeot map in a Burgundy book. It's kind of similar to that.
Lo puedes ver aquí se ve perfectamente los colores de los propietarios.
Sí, claro.
For example, in this plot, I buy this plot, but this plot is 400 meters. And I need to buy 4 proprietaries, and each proprietary have 100 meters. Actually, I buy this, and will be for the future. This is other plot. In this part of Rapollau, there are, I think, 22 different plots. And this is more big, 35, 14 different plots. But the total area is 5 hectares. The total area is 5 hectares. No, 5.5. 5.5, and now this plot was a forest. There are a person that have a lucky in the lottery. Le tocó, no sé, mucho dinero en la lotería. And the guy buy the forest, take off the forest, and is going to plant this plot.
¿En serio? ¿Que ganó a la lotería?
Sí, sí,
Okay,
sí.
so if anyone didn't hear that, this part of Rapollau was forest up until the time of this Google satellite image, and he won the lottery. Literally won the lottery, so he was able to pull the trees out and he's now planting. ¿Cómo se llama el tío?
No sé. Es de Viariz. And the problem no is this. The problem is before the moment that take off the forest, this area tiene más sombra.
It was shadier and had a little bit more shelter when there were still
And now
trees.
have more sun. And the profile of these wines actually is different.
Pero esta no es tu parte debajo de esa.
No,
Yeah.
yo tengo aquí, esto es mío,
Vale.
esto es mío,
Yeah.
esto es mío. Pero this part have good inclination, and was the first moment with the sun in the morning, in the past is 10, and now is 9, is 1 hour more. And if you moving 1 hour more for the 3 months of the cycle of maturation, you have a very big number of the hours, sun hours. And at the end, the good maturation in the grapes depended the hours of the sun. It's for this that in this area, in any areas there are Cabernet, and other areas is Pinot Noir. It's for the sun. It's the integral thermica on Winkler. Winkler was studied these conditions, and the sun determine the wine condition. Okay.
So now we're going to cross a bit of a divide and leave Raúl's home turf. We're crossing the valley to the eastern part near one of the bigger towns in Bierzo, which is called Ponferrada, right here. And just below Ponferrada, we are heading up, way
Cerrar
up.
un poco,
¿Más pequeño o más grande?
más pequeño para ver un poco la diferencia de los pueblos de distancia. No,
We're going up 800 meters into the mountains.
pequeño, pequeño. No, más, eso.
Sí, sí.
Más todavía. Okay, you can understand this wine. The first wine is from Valtuille, is this area, and now we're moving to this area.
Yeah.
It's around 25-30 kilometers, but it's very different for the altitude. Valtuille, the big part of the vineyard is 600 meters. Here the vineyard is around 800 meters. We work with different plots. We have around, I don't know, 20 plots. I use one plot, El Cerro. The name is Cinar, I think. Is this plot?
Está enfrente de la montaña, yeah.
Is this plot, north orientation, high altitude, and in this area, the more the soil, the big part is slate, is a schist. Is this plot? Is this, I think. And this altitude produced more cool conditions. The harvest in Valtuille is the end of August, first time of September. The normal time for harvest in this area is the end of September, first time of October. And normally, the alcohol possible in these areas, weighting, is around 12, 11.5, 11. And it's very important, the blend. In Valtuille, the blend with Palomino is very 2-3%. Here, the blend in the vineyard is very high of Palomino. It's 10-15% is Palomino. And the Palomino have not a good maduration. When you have the Mencía with a 12 of alcohol, the Palomino is 9 or 8 alcohol. And at the end, the blend is very different. For example, in 2023, in La Muria, is the same conditions for the blends. And in 2023, the Mencía have a very low production. And the Palomino, the condition of the vintage, is high production. And at the end, I think, and I decided, okay, take off a part of Palomino. And this part that I take off, I put in the barrel. And when finished the fermentation, I have analysis of the barrel. And the level of alcohol is 8 of alcohol. And the moment of the harvest, today is, ¿qué día soy? It's 7 of, today is 7. The harvest of Muria 23 was around 15 of October. In Valtuille, in this vintage, in the same vintage, the first of the harvest is 25, 26 of August. It's 25 kilometers, but it's very different, the orientation and the altitude. And it's an area with Mencía, Palomino, the big part, a little part of Trousseau, and a little part of Alicante Bichet. We have two wines, the blend of the plots, the different plots that I have. I make Valdecañada, the name of the village, and this single plot is north and it's very cool, and I make El Cerro. The soil is, the big part is schist, and here the altitude is 900 meters. The elaboration is different to the other wines. Here is the same condition for the old cluster, 100%, but here in the normal vintage and in 18 was 5 months in skin contact. I pressed the grapes in February and put the wines in all barrels with a very high contamination. And in these barrels have floor, similar floor to sherry, but different yeast. The floor is yeast, but there are yeast that oxidative sensation and smell to green apple, and you have a profile of the sherry wines, and you have other floor is reductive, smell to shit, and this is the floor that is good for the wines, for my wines. If I put if I have a apple floor, at the end, when finish the tanning floor, the wines smell to sherry. But when you have a floor, reductive floor, the protection is absolutely, never have oxidation, and when you finish the tanning floor and take off the wine of the barrel and put sulfite, the wine have other time the fruity. And in this time that the wine stay on the floor, 6, 7 months, 8 months, the green parts of the origin of the wine change to the sweet parts, because when you have a floor, you don't need sulfites in the wine. And if you don't have sulfites, the level of oxygen in the wine is very higher. And this oxygen have a polymerization of the green tannins, and at the end is very sweet sensation.
So a big, perhaps unusually, a big part of Raúl's work in the winery, in the bodega, is like literally going barrel by barrel with pretty high frequency and taking off the bung and literally going in and making sure that it's the good floor, the reductive floor, that in his mind, his winemaking sort of apparatus smells like shit, which is the good sign, so that he can intercept any barrels that are going awry for these red wines that are aging under floor.
Here the problem is, this is the mountain. In this area, the down part of this plot, around 10, 15 kilometers of this plot, there are a very high mountain, and there are a ski station. I remember to ski in this area. It's very cool. Actually, we have a high pressure of the animals, los jabalíes, ¿cómo se llaman? Pigs.
They have wild boar issues up here.
And we have around 7 hectares in this area, and the total production in 7 hectares normally is 4,000-5,000 kilograms. Only the cerro is closed. There are protection, and I produced around 4-5 barrels in this plot. When you work with floor, it's very different expression, and in general, 15-16% you need to move to the second wine, because the floor is more complicated.
I just did a quick calculation on my phone, which is telling me that in a good year up here in this area, in a good year, he's getting the equivalent of 10 hectoliters per hectare production.
And in these wines, the level of alcohol, I don't remember, but 11, 11.5 is probably. It's very young. Estos vinos son muy jóvenes todavía.
All right. Entonces
¿Vamos bien de tiempo?
¿Cómo?
¿Vamos bien de tiempo?
Sí.
Vale, perfecto. You can feel the structure of the schist. The sandy and the clay soils produce very sweet, very light sensation. When you work with a slate, the tannins is very, no sé la palabra rugoso. Nosotros decimos rugoso. Rugoso. Rugoso es esto. Esta camisa está arrugada. ¿Ves?
Wrinkly.
Tú puedes...
No me tratas así.
No, tú puedes traducir esto a la sensación. Entonces, en español hay una expresión que se dice rugoso.
Ya, no, pero en inglés no se dice para esa sensación.
Ya.
Pero estás hablando de qué, de taninos.
De los taninos.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that in castellano they talk about wrinkly tannins.
También decimos que son como una lija, no sé la palabra lija.
Lija no sabría.
Lija es esta hoja que usas para la madera, para cuando tienes una madera y quieres dejarla.
Ah,
Hay una cosa que es una lija. Que es,
yeah, like a.
lo de las
like
uñas.
Like a wood
Esto, de,
planing, like a planer.
esto que usan para las uñas, no sé cómo se llama esto, que hacen así a las
Oh,
uñas.
a file.
Esa
Una
sensación.
lija se dice.
Lija.
Lija, a file.
Okay, we're going to change Valtuille to Viariz. ¿Podemos volver al mapa original?
Sí, claro, claro.
I said you the distancia between Valtuille and Valdecañada is 25-30 kilometers. Okay, the distance of Valtuille to Viariz, it's around 9 kilometers. The problem is the altitude. Valtuille is 600 meters, Valdecañada 800 meters, Viariz is 1,000 meters. The altitude is more higher. Here, the orientation for the vineyards is necessary to suit orientation. If you have the vineyards in north orientation, no, it's possible to have a maduration. In 2017, we are looking the wines with the people in Spain speaking about the change of the climatology. And now, when you go to the wine congress, the more important choose in the congress is the change of the climatology. And this change of the climatology is probably that for the future, the people don't know the solutions, but it's probably that the one solution will be the change of the grapes. Actually, in Bierzo, we have grapes with need a short time of maduration. It's probably that the climatology change. We need grapes with a more long time of maduration. I can believe in the future the grapes will be Grenache, Mourvèdre. Is probably this profile of grapes that have a very high adaptation to the very complicated conditions. I remember in 2003 when I have my first harvest in South Africa with Hidden Sadi. The people in South Africa are very emocionada with the Syrah and other grapes. If you go 20 years before or after to South Africa, you can see that the new grapes is different. It's more Grenache, Mourvèdre, Portuguese grapes, Tinta Barroca, Tinta Amarela. Is for the climatology. In Swaziland, you can feel the real change of the climatology. Have no rain, it's very warm, and this is the same problem in Spain. At the end, Spain is the south of Europe. The first problems with the water and the temperature in Europe will be Spain. But it really that the Mediterranean areas is this problem have more time, and you can testing good wines in Lebanon or in Grecia. But it's probably that in the future need other reflections. Okay, and in this reflection, in 2017, have opportunity of buy these vineyards in the high altitude. And at the end, the harvest is 45 2 months later than the down part of the valley. I buy these vineyards around 6 hectares. The total soil, but if you translate the soil to the plants, we have around 2 hectares, 3 hectares. The total production in a very, very, very good vintage is 5,000-6,000 kilograms. But you need to work 7 hectares. And here, the inclination is very high. No, it's possible to use machines for work the soil. We use horses. We need 2-3 months with the horses working the soil. And in this area was planted with the people that work in the valley. This small village is the typical cultive in this area is the chestnut, and it's very poor areas. And along of the history, these persons, in the moment of the harvest, go down to work for 1 month or 2 months. And in this moment, in 1920 or 1930, these persons planted the grapes in these areas, not for salt the grapes, for drink. And it's for this that I remember 35 years old, when in my first time of work in the family winery, I know these persons, and the cooperatives in Bierzo don't want these grapes. No, it's possible to solve because the quality of the grapes for the past no is good. It's very acid, low level of alcohol, and the price of the grapes in the past depended of the level of alcohol. If you have high level of alcohol, the price is higher. If you have low level of alcohol, the price is very lower, or the people want not these grapes. But now, after these times, the condition of the climatology changed, the conditions of the wines, and the people prefer wines with more acidity, with more low of alcohol, is the first moment for work in this area. The first person that worked in this area was Álvaro Palacios, 1999. But really, when Álvaro arrived to Bierzo and decided to establish the project in Corullón, we are looking at the maturity style. I remember Corullón 99, 20, 21, 22, 23, 27, 29, the level of alcohol. Álvaro make a late harvest, looking the level of alcohol. Actually, the people understand the opportunity of these vineyards for make more Burgundy style, more good high acidity, low level of alcohol in the natural conditions. But these people that planted this vineyard, at the end, planted in this area Mencía and planted Palomino, because the Palomino have a very high production, and the people prefer the vineyards with a production. No, it's possible to see in this area one plant of Godello. The people no plant de Godello.
¿Se trata de la misma época de plantación?
No, esta plantación es más tardía. Esta plantación es de los años 30-40.
Sí, pero digo, más o menos lo mismo que en Valdecañada, ¿verdad?
No. Valdecañada era la zona histórica. Los primeros viñedos del Bierzo son de la zona de Valdecañada, siglo VII, siglo VIII.
Pero digo la replantación en Valdecañada.
La replantación de Valdecañada es de esta época, porque la filoxera dejó muerto a Valdecañada.
So, the reason that both here in the mountains of the west and up in the eastern mountains with the Valdecañada wines, the reason that the physical reality of the vineyards in both of these areas is actually a lot of Palomino white and a little bit of Mencía. This just has to do with the planting date, which up here in the mountains, the replantation happened mostly in the 1930s, as opposed to right after phylloxera in the 1890s in his village down on the valley floor, where it's majority Mencía. So just a brief note there.
Bueno, and we have two parts in the village. We have a more important plot. Is this? That the name is La Muria, and when I buy this plot, it's 3 hectares around. The proprietary Ricardo have a production for the animals, and we have other parts in the village. Las Pozas, Atais, Las Pozas, Atorna, Atais, La Gorga, and this part, and this parcel have not a protection, and it's very normal that in August 1 month previous to the harvest, the animals eat the fruit. And it's for this, when you're testing the first wine and the third wine, is the same plot in 21. Because in 21, the animals eat every vineyard, every grapes, only have the opportunity of make Lamuria. And in Lamuria, it's very different. This is the south part, have the east part, and have the west part. And I make 5 different vinifications in this plot. You have the low level. This part is 1 vinification, and make a unique wine. The name is down part. It's 800 meters, 850 meters to 900 meters around. Here is the photograph. You think that is more lower, and in this part I make 2 vinifications. This part and the other part, and in the high part I make this part and this part. There are 5 different wines. In general, we use for Lamuria this part. It's east, and the other parts is for the blend with the different plots for make Viariz. But in 2021, there are not other grapes, and 100% of the grapes is Muria. This is Lamuria, and this is Viariz. It's the same plot. The difference for the harvest is around 1 week. This is the first moment for harvest is here, and the end is the high part. Here the level of alcohol, 10.5, 11, 11.5. But my first wine in this area was 2019. I don't understand the wines. 2000, I don't make, I don't sold. After 20, I don't understand the wines. My partner said, no, put more money. And I make 21 and put in bottle with no sold. And after I make 22. And in 22, my partner said, no more money for this project. And at the end, in 2022, have not a control of the moment of the harvest. And when I finished the other harvest, I decided to pick in the grapes in Lamuria. 2022 is very dry vintage, and for Lamuria was a very rare vintage. And when I arrived to Lamuria, the level of alcohol is very higher. In normal is 11.5, 11, 10.5, and in 2022 is 13.5, 14. And it's for this that when you test in the wines, 22 is very, very different. It's very, very different. Today we're going to testing 2001 and 2021 and 22. It's 21, no? Sí. No, it's 20. And 20. 20. No, 22. It's similar vintage. After this time, we have a lucky. Parker puts 100 points to this wine, and the history of this project was very different. My partner decided to put the money in the project, and actually have a very happy moment for this project. But I always say that if I don't have 100 points, it's probably that today no we speak about these wines, because it's very, very expensive. For example, when you have a production of the grapes in Valtuille and you look the price, the real price of the grape for the winery, it's around 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 euros. When you look the price of these grapes, is more than 200 euros. It's more than 200 por kilos. El precio de costo de una uva en el valle está entre 0,4 y 0,9, depende de lo que trabajes. Pero el precio aquí pasa de 20 euros.
Sí, no, 20, no,
No, no, 20.
Yeah, so 20
20.
euros per kilo, he's saying, not 200.
El costo real.
Yeah.
Okay, and here the elaboration is very simple. We wait the maximum possible for the maturation. In the normal vintage, the maturation is very late. It's a medium of October. We wait to the first rain, and when arrive the rain, the 2-3 previous day, I make the harvest. The normal is 10.5, 11.5 is the normal level of alcohol. The acidity in this area is more higher than the other areas. And the vinification is very simple. It's 100% all cluster. There are five different parts in Lemuria and 3 different vinification in the other parts. The big part of the soil is schist. Only there are a small plot that the name is atized. It's a very part of the soil is chalky. No, it's normal in Bierzo chalky. And you can see the problem is big part of the plants is dead, and the space is empty. But when you are working with the horses, it's the same. You need to moving. And a ver. Joder. Okay. After this time, the wines is going to the barrel. It's a blend of small barrels and big barrels. And in 21, this barrel have floor. En el 2001, 21, is floor. Because in this area, it's very easy to work with floor because the level of alcohol is very lower, and when you have a low level of alcohol, the floor is more easy. I don't like work this project with floor because I have not experience with the wines, and it's for this that I prefer, in the possible, to have a control of the level of sulfites and not have floor. But in 21, we are experienced with the wines and have floor. In 22 is without floor, 23 is without floor. And here is a blend, Mencía Trousseau, around 85%, 90%, and 10% around. No ha salido al mercado, pero vamos a probarla.
¿La abrimos ahora?
Sí.
Vale.
This is
He brought it at 23 in his suitcase. Hasn't been released yet commercially.
I love this vintage.
Gracias por llevarlo.
Good thing we still have a 4th glass.
Can you speak a little bit about are there differences between how you make the Viariz and the Valtuille? Like what the differences are? They're kind of.
¿Cuál es la?
¿Hay una diferencia en vinificación entre Viariz y Murió?
No. There are different difference between the different tanks in Lemuria. It's probably I have 5 different small tanks for the fermentation. In this wine, the more normal, the fermentation is without sulfur, or the level of the sulfur is very lower. We have a factor that have a limit in the vinification. Is when you finish the fermentation, anytime you have a smell to acetate. It's in this moment when I said this tank fresh. It's probably that this tank is only 25 or 20 days in skin contact, and the other tanks continue the vinification. But in these wines, the level of alcohol is very lower, and the risk is very higher. It's very difficult to have a long fermentation, long maceration. And it's very normal that in this wine, 30 days, 35 days, no more. I would like to have more time, but the more normal is you have a level of aesthetic more higher because it's very sensibility. At the end, the alcohol is the protection, natural protection for the aesthetic in the wines. When you have a 9, 10, it's really that the acidity is very higher, and there are the concept of the pH, and the pH have a stabilization of the fermentation. But it's more risk, these wines, than the others. And I would like this vintage because I explaining the difference in the wine when you have not 100 points and you have 100 points. When you have 100 points, the pressure is very higher. It's very, very higher. 22 was a very forget vintage. At the end, the wine is very, very good. But in 23, I know that I have 100 points. In 22, no. And in 23, every choose was perfect. We have a selection of the grapes. 10 persons take off the little part of botrytis grapes, and it's have a very big thing working for make a perfect wine. Which is very difficult to work with the precision. But it really, when you have more time, more dedication, more people, more serious the work, at the end the wine is best. And 23 is represented the possibilities of this vineyard. In 21, I think, wow, it's the lucky. But in 23, you understand the expression of this plot and the magic of the plot. It's incredible vineyard. It's incredible.
The 23 is beautiful.
It's very beautiful. And it's very different because 23 is very rain. Was a very rain vintage. And at the end, you can feel the humidity. The time of the harvest was 20 days after of 21. 20 days after. And in 23 was horrible because I have was very difficult the maduration in the vineyard. And there are a thing is a filme, and I come to my partners to testing the grapes, and we are working for this area and testing the wines and testing the grapes, and the grapes have a very good flavor. This is Friday 13 or Friday, I don't remember. And there are other persons in the group. No, it's normal that the person of the laboratory come to the vineyards, but this day there are a person filming, and there are 4 persons with me. And I said to the person of the laboratory, take the grapes and look the grapes. But the idea of the grape is perfect. And when I go into the winery, the girls say, Raúl, have 10 alcohol. Oh my God, 10? I think the harvest will be tomorrow. And I said, okay, quick. Sunday will be a very low rain in this area. But Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, there are sun. And when you have a rain, and in the next time you have sun, the maturity is very fast. And I said, okay, the harvest will be Tuesday. And the Sunday have the rain, and the Monday it rain, Tuesday it rain, Wednesday it rain, and the temperature is very low, and have botrytis, and every day more botrytis, and rain and botrytis, rain and botrytis. And the next Friday, I said, Okay, the people go to the vineyard and take the grapes. It's raining, but take the grapes. And the harvest is raining. And the level of botrytis is incredible. And there are 10 persons, take off. Only is possible 10 persons select 600 kilograms every day. Was very difficult. And at the end, put the wines and take off the botrytis grapes and ferment it. And the level of alcohol is very lower. I don't remember, but it's 10.9 or 10.5 alcohol or 11. I don't remember. But this selection was the possibility. This selection was the possibility. And I have the testing with Parker of this wine. And after 1 month, have one dinner with different persons in this testing, and there are the catador, the Parker person, and every people in the table said, oh, Muria 23 is best than Muria 21, and have a very high pressure, I think, and at the end, in 23, he recognized the quality of this vineyard. But a very good history. Okay, thank you. I hope that like the wines. And